everybody, and welcome to the first year of our PSPs. That stands for Preseason Projections. I'm your host, Zang. I'm here joined by Ace, and today we'll be starting off with our 14th ranked team, the Sault Ste. Marie Locks.
Hell yeah, did we get a new intro song? That was awesome.
This is a new intro song for the PSPs. Just a little one to sprinkle in there to differentiate. I always have fun with the intro songs.
That's
have
awesome.
a good time with those. So we got a new
Hi
one for
guys.
No, hey, yeah. I mean, everybody's joining with us. It was a little surprise. There should be a fun surprise for the intro as well once we get back to the regular season. But we'll sort of start off our preseason projections with the Sault Ste. Marie Locks. They did come in the 14th ranked team on our list. Obviously, being an expansion team, they're in a little bit more challenging of a position than some of the other guys. So let's quickly start by just kind of talking over their key offseason trades and acquisitions. We won't go over the guys they got from the expansion draft because obviously that's kind of their quote-unquote roster they started with. We will go over the trades. Players coming in, Jose Altuve to fill that second base hole, Carson Williams, the young Tampa Bay prospect, Jung-Hoo Lee, going to be moving to corner outfield out in San Francisco, Andrew Vaughn, Taylor Ward, Casey Mize, I was saying to Ace, coming down the pipeline just in time, Hunter Green is a big trade coming over here to Sault Ste. Marie. Players they lost in those trades, we saw Camilo Doval, Kyle Teal, Sal Stewart, Justin Steele, Willier Abreu, Bryson Stott, Ivan Herrera, Joey Cantillo, Matt Strom, and Aaron Nola head out the door. So obviously a lot of trading going on with both of our expansion teams. What do you think of this in and out, Ace?
Yeah, I mean, like the big name here for the in is obviously Hunter Green, and it's a kind of a big question mark in that regard because he did go down, or he's scheduled for an MRI, I believe it is.
Yep.
So this could be a massive coin toss here. He might be on, the 60-day DL. You get him back sometime, maybe end of April, beginning of May. And then, all right, he might be a nice solid piece for you to make a nice playoff push. Or it could be absolutely worst case scenario and he needs Tommy John and you just traded for a player who's not going to see the light of day in 2026.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's definitely a massive trade here that could swing the momentum of oh God, I'm gonna butcher the name here. Oh God, I lost the page. Oh, Zang, it's all going to shit.
Sault Ste. Marie, Sault Ste. Marie out in Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think it has a chance to swing a lot of it, and of course, not to dive too much into a team we're not talking today, but a lot for Mike as well.
Shocker, Mike involved in another trade.
Mike is involved in a trade. I know. Who's surprised? I think this is actually a really great trade for Sault Ste. Marie. I don't see any world in which Gavin Williams is a better player than Hunter Green. And Sault Ste. Marie, I think, in a way that Mike's team isn't, is they can take the hit of Hunter Green being out for the year with Tommy John. Obviously, it would suck, but I think it based off this power ranking and just being an expansion team, like this is a building year. I don't want to say rebuilding, but like it's a building year. It's as they're making trades, trying to make those pickups and all of that stuff. So in a way that I think a lot of teams aren't sort of structured for that. If Hunter Green's out, it obviously sucks, but it's not the end of the world. And again, this is talking worst case scenario. He comes back in a year and a half, and maybe at that point we see Sault Ste. Marie with a much stronger roster, kind of ready to compete with an ace like that. So let's start by diving into their lineup. Dylan Dingler, the Tigers catcher, is catching for them. Alec Burleson, who's taken in their expansion draft, will be manning first base with Brooks Lee at second and Alec Boehm at third. Mason Wynn is the shortstop, with Andrew Vaughn filling in that last infield spot. Jose Altuve, who does still hold that eligibility, is out in left field, with Jung-Hoo Lee and Nick Castellanos manning center field and right field, respectively. Sneaky great pickup in Taylor Ward as the flex outfielder, and then Marcell Ozuna from the Pirates, if you will, at the DH. What do you think of this lineup?
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty solid lineup. I think he's pretty strong. Obviously, I love Alec Burleson. Just the flexibility that he provides, also with that outfield eligibility. I think he's going to be a very solid piece in this lineup. Gotta love the Dingmeister, if not just for his name. And yeah, like you mentioned, the Tyler Ward pick, Oh my God, why am I Taylor Ward? Jesus Christ, Taylor Ward pick is a really sneaky one too. He's projected just shy of 500 points this year for a batter, so Fantrax expecting him to have a pretty solid season. Kind of a bit of a breaking news update. He has placed Mason Wynn on the IL. Not sure what that's all about. And so in his place, he has replaced Brooks Lee at shortstop and Jonathan India.
Yeah, Jonathan India's in here. Yeah.
Which I love Jonathan India.
He's great. Yeah, and I think you used a perfect word for this lineup. It's really solid. There's not really bad players along here, and this has kind of been the theme with these expansion teams. Again, there's not that super strong guy. You're looking at kind of, Altuve, maybe Burleson, possibly if we see that like super breakout Vaughn or Ward as kind of like the top guys. And obviously that's not what we see anchoring a lot of these lineups, but it's strong across the board. Now, during these recaps, I'm going to be mentioning some sort of rankings. These rankings are coming from IBW, which is a dynasty baseball resource. So they every year publish a top 1,000 Dynasty baseball players list. And if a player is ranked in the top 100, I kind of listed them on there to indicate, oh, hey, this guy's on the list. As we talked about a little bit earlier, this is Dynasty stuff. So youth plays in a big factor, which frankly is why you're seeing guys like Jose Altuve, not on that list. Probably, maybe even Taylor Ward as well, had that phenomenal year last year. This lineup doesn't have any of those guys, which is obviously a little bit concerning, but again, it's a solid lineup, and I think it's the kind of thing where the lineup will kind of punch its ticket, and hopefully what we'll talk about in a moment, a pretty high upside potential in a pitching staff can really carry the team. So let's talk about the pitching staff, which is, of course, hopefully led off by Hunter Green, who is number 36 on that IBW list. Obviously, phenomenal starting pitcher out in Cincinnati, had a sort of another step up last year, like true ace stuff. And yeah, hopefully he'll be kind of anchoring this rotation for Sault Ste. Marie. He's also got Jose Barrios, Ryan Pepio, hometown friend, and Casey Mize, and Merrill Kelly, who is currently on the IL, but he should be returning before too long, filling out his kind of starting five there. In the relief market, he's got Pete Fairbanks, who's now down in Miami, and Orion Kirkering, who, as long as you're not asking him to throw out a runner at first base, is a really solid relief
Dodgers
pitcher.
Legend,
So that's what his Dodgers legend. Yeah, luckily, that won't count in Dynasty here. So he's also got kind of a fun little lottery ticket in Zach Littell, who is currently unsigned to a team, but put up over 500 points last year. So seems like he's kind of holding on to him, like I said, kind of as a lottery ticket. And if he signs, he was a great starter last year in Cincinnati, started a playoff game for them. So he could be kind of a fun, you don't want to say X factor, but a little boost to this starting rotation.
Yeah, I definitely like what he's got going on at pitcher. Obviously, like we mentioned before, it being an expansion draft team, the elite of the elite are not going to be left to you. So scrounging up what you're able to at starting pitcher, getting him some nice streaming options going. He's got a couple of Miami guys there, and Braxton Garrett and Max Meyer. So, if one of them can kind of turn into something, you never know with these young guys. They pop off for a season. Sometimes that's all you really need. Hunter Green being the big question mark there for him as well. But yeah, I think he's got a really solid lineup here, all things considered, with this being an expansion team. Should be very happy with where he's at. And yeah, I gotta give big props to, what is it, Sault Ste. Marie?
Sault Ste. Marie, yeah.
Sault Ste.
In
Marie.
Michigan. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so yeah, I totally agree with all that. And I think, kind of like you said, there's a lot of upside in this rotation. Ryan Pepio is a Tampa guy. They can always boom. Casey Mize, like I said in the last podcast, former number 1 overall pick. Like, he obviously hasn't totally lived up to that billing, but we know the arm talent that this guy has. You've got those, Miami guys that you mentioned. Miami can always pump guys out. So it feels like that there's a lot of potential variance in this, but it really could end up booming and being a pretty solid starting rotation for him. So moving on from that, we will just slide down to some prospects or possible promotions. For this section, across all of them, we're really going to be focusing on guys who are near the major leagues. So we won't be talking over Noble Meyer, who was taken, I think, in the second round of the first-year player draft. He's just 21, probably be a little while before he's ready to make the majors. But we'll talk about the guys who could make an impact this year. So we'll start off with Carson Williams, who and I'll list him as prospect number 56. IBW also does a prospect list, so the prospect guys, I will be listing sort of their prospect spot. He's prospect number 56, pardon me. Tampa Bay guy, definitely a tough MLB debut, and just kind of a tough 2025 overall, which I'll come back around to as maybe actually a little bit of a positive. His hit tool, his really elite shortstop glove, and even his power, which was kind of his calling card, they all took big steps back last year. Here's why that's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe you can kind of just write it off as an off year. Ball players have that sometimes. We see it where just sometimes guys have an off year. And look, this is still a guy who definitely sacrifices hit tool for power. But in his past, he has had a great shortstop glove and truly, MLB caliber power. So I think we could potentially see that out of Tampa Bay. And he should get some run, even though he had that kind of challenging little debut last year at the end of the year with the Rays. Noah Schultz, prospect number 96, who's acquired in the expansion draft. Look, the guy's a 6'10 lefty with 2 mid-90s fastballs and a wipeout slider, so clearly he's got the arm talent. With that, as it so often does, comes some pretty serious control issues. But the swing and miss stuff is tantalizing, and you're always going to bet on that type of talent. And, as I mentioned to Ace sort of before we were recording, the White Sox are going to have plenty of spots in that rotation. So whether he long-term maybe profiles a little bit more as a reliever, he's going to get a chance in the starting rotation this year. And if he clicks, this is a guy who before this past year was one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. So there's a lot of boom potential there as well. And then Sung Mun Song is prospect 299. He was selected with Sault Ste. Marie's first round pick. He's prospect number 299, as I said. He's probably going to fill a bench or utility role for the Padres in 2026. But he had a really phenomenal year in Korea last year. 315 batting average, over a 900 OPS with 26 home runs. So obviously the jump from Korea to MLB is even more significant than the jump from Japan to MLB. So we're not going to see that type of, that caliber of production from him, but it's very, very possible he could carve out a starting role, given, he's kind of got that 5-tool light type upside. So, especially all the turnover that's going on in San Diego, it would not shock me to see him become a major league regular out there. And it seems like he's going to be on the major league roster at least to start the year. So, any thoughts on which one of these prospects could maybe be a little bit of an X factor for the Locks or might contribute the most to them this season?
I think I'm going to go with Noah Schultz in this situation. I just think, like you mentioned, it being with the White Sox, that could easily lead to a lot of playing time, and I think that's the biggest thing with these prospects is who's going to be able to see the field most often. I think in a case with Carson Williams, like you mentioned, he had a really tough MLB debut last year, so they might want to keep him a little bit longer in the majors just to see, if he's truly ready or not for the move up. And with the White Sox, they're kind of thrown caution to the wind, and they're just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. So we'll see what happens. Like you mentioned, Schultz is easily going to be in line to kind of get some starting roles at some point, and so it's just on him if he's going to be able to capitalize on him, or if, like you mentioned, they'll eventually move him to a reliever role, which could still be useful. Absolutely, in fantasy. There's absolutely use to be found there.
I mean, you look at former A's guy AJ Puck, pardon me, who is till his injury last year was one of the top relievers. Former similar guy, really tall lefty, wipeout stuff. So I really like that there's upside even if he does end up as the reliever. So we'll now move down to kind of how we'll close these out with a projection. So out of 21 games total, Ace, how many do you see the Sault Ste. Marie Locks winning in 2026?
I'm going to go with 8. I know it's kind of low, so my record prediction is 8-13. Do I believe he will make the playoffs? No, I don't believe he'll make the playoffs with an 8-13 record. I just think it's really tough for the expansion teams the first year, kind of getting situated and, not obviously being a part of the original draft and, only being able to select from a certain pool of players. So trying to make something out of that in the first season is a really tough thing. But hey, if you hit on a couple of these low, minors players that end up being something big, some of these lower projected guys end up popping off for, 100, 200 points over their projection. You never really know. And, but maybe we see him as a top seed, but I just think it's too early for him as a team, and I think he just needs one season to kind of get situated, and then we'll see a bigger step taken next season.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. I don't see this as a playoff team. I have the record prediction at 7-14, so close to you. It's exactly like you said. The expansion teams, they're probably going to need a season to kind of get their feet under them. The one thing I'll say, and this is sort of a callback to our football podcast from the winter. How many times do we say about KJ that it's not one in the draft, it's one on the waiver wire,
Yep.
specifically about his play. So that's one of the reasons I was so excited to have him kind of join this group is just what an active and insightful fantasy player he is. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what this team looks like next year as we're kind of coming back in. So closing out, and we will see you tomorrow for the next PSP.
Do you know what that makes you? Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers.